Welcome back. As you know, I am Eli, the computer guy, here for the Daily Blob, where I shake my brain nipples every day to get some of that dirty YouTube money so I can afford to provide you folks hands-on, in-person technology education that empowers you to do whatever the hell it is you want to do in Durham, North Carolina. We have a class coming up on AI and web scraping that is completely full next week. We have a class coming up on extending AI capabilities with REST APIs in a couple of weeks. We have more classes coming down the pike every couple of weeks. If you're interested, take a look at silicondojo.com to see what our current schedule is. Do remember, free to the end user is not actually free. That's why I shake the brain nips every day. If you want to throw some money into the donor box link down below, that would be ever so lovely. And with that, let us get back to our favorite telenovela of the channel, The Ballad of Nexperia. Because it just keeps getting stupider and stupider and stupider. I don't know, for any of those YouTubers out there, for any other commentary people out there, has there ever been like one of those like stories where you just see the original story and you're like, oh, okay, this is interesting, I'll talk about it. And then like it just never ends. Just like every fucking day there's something else. Yeah, that's basically how it's going with Nexperia here. I am curious how this particular telenovela will end. I'm a little worried it's gonna end up being like Lost Season 5. You put 4 solid years watching Lost, you finally get to the end, and then you're just like, what is this season? What? This is what we led up to? Anyways, hopefully The Ballad of Nexperia doesn't have its Lost moment. So yeah, this is coming from Reuters. And oh my, chef's kiss to the level of stupidity this is going to. Exclusive, Nexperia customers in talks over workaround to skirt Europe-China chip feud, sources say. So in Nexperia, lots of stuff going on. Now I kind of go into it. Anyway, it's just getting too far. It's just getting like way too complicated at this point in time. So the interesting thing, where are we up to with Nexperia at this point? Is apparently the Chinese government has taken back the export controls of Nexperia's packaging factories in China being able to ship products to the rest of the world, right? So Nexperia has her headquarters in the Netherlands, has wafer manufacturing facilities in Europe, basically sends the wafers to China to be packaged. So one of the problems here is that the Chinese government literally stepped in, and when the Netherlands seized Nexperia's headquarters, the Chinese government said, you know, these factories are no longer able to ship product outside of China. So that was one issue. Beyond that, though, is you've got these other actual business issues going on, where basically the Nexperia division in China is saying they are not being paid appropriately by the Nexperia division outside of China, and the Nexperia division outside of China says they're not being paid appropriately by the division inside of China, right? So there's the government idiocy that has been occurring. That seems to have lessened. That doesn't mean the problem is over, though. So now you've got these business issues. So the European division of Nexperia that actually produces the wafers themselves, they don't want to ship any more wafers into China because they say they're not being paid. I'm not getting in the middle of shit. I have no idea what the accounting looks like. I'm just saying what they're saying. So we've got this problem now of basically Nexperia China can ship product, but they're not getting wafers in. The issue is, again, with these chips that Nexperia produces, they're used by basically all auto manufacturers around the world. And when I say that, we're talking about Honda, we're talking about GM, we're talking about Mercedes-Benz, basically all companies, right? The first factory to shut down because of this disaster was actually a Honda factory in Mexico. Right, so this isn't just like it's hitting the United States, it's not just hitting Europe, it's hitting Mexico, it's hitting Brazil, it's hitting Japan. It's basically anybody that produces cars, they can't get these chips, and so it's a big problem. And so now the big issue is, okay, the governments are stepping back to allow, right, the flow of goods, but the companies themselves are not willing to ship product because it's not paid for. And so that's where we get in the current level of stupidity. And this is, like, in the business world, this is the equivalent of having a polar bear show up on a tropical island. Remember in Lost, when all of a sudden there's a fucking polar bear on a tropical island? Yeah, that's about where we are in this Nexperia story. Like, this This isn't how modern business is supposed to work. Anyways, customers of Chinese-owned Dutch chip maker Nexperia are working with the company on a workaround to bypass a feud between the Europe-based unit and its packaging plant in China, two sources close to the firm told Reuters. So again, this is not governments at this point in time. This is the company itself. The workaround, previously unreported, is not a permanent solution, no, nor feasible for smaller clients, no, but offers a patch that could relieve some pressure on the auto market where a scarcity of Nexperia chips has dented some production of cars and parts. A standoff between the European side of the business and its Chinese plant, sparked by the seizure of Nexperia by the Dutch government over fears of technology transfer, has snarled supply of its chips that are key for the global automotive market. Nexperia makes wafers, the base material for making multiple chips in Europe, which are then sent to its plant in Dongguan in China, where they are cut and packaged. However, due to the standoff, the European side has halted shipments to China. Now, some clients are working with Nexperia Europe to purchase silicon wafers directly from its factory in Hamburg, separately transport them to China, and there contract Dongguan plant for the final packaging, sources say. So basically, see what's supposed to happen is the plant in Hamburg makes the wafers, they put them on a bus, they ship them to China, China packages them and sells them to the world. Because we have this now corporate feud, again, to be clear, this is a corporate feud at this point in time, the wafers are not getting from Hamburg, apparently, to the packaging plant. So the workaround here is for you as an auto manufacturer to go to Hamburg with a whole bunch of cash, buy the wafers. Here's $5 million. How many wafers can I get for this? They literally hand you the fucking wafers. You then have to transport the wafers to China for the Chinese plant to then chop up the wafers, turn them into the components, and hand them to you. And so again, this is where we talk about supply chains. So many times in the modern world, we take things for granted. The modern world, for all of its many ills, for many things, has become very fucking seamless, right? It is amazing, right? If I want something from Amazon, I go to Amazon, I just buy the thing. What you have to understand, right, and you get it tomorrow. What you have to understand is that's how it's been for the business world too. Like if I want a new camera, I just go to Amazon, I order it, I get it. Well, whoever manufactures that camera, if they needed new lenses or they needed new LCD screens or whatever else, they just went to their version essentially of Amazon. They swiped their credit card and then they got their product, right? This has been a pretty seamless process for a couple of decades now. And now with just this disaster of the decoupling going on, what we're running into now is that auto manufacturers have to fucking curry their own goddamn wafers to China in order for them to be put into the final product that they actually need. Think about all of the extra steps that adds to the process. Think about all of the extra risk that adds to the process, right? And that's basically what we're dealing with. A spokesperson for Nexperia said the company was working to support customers in every way it could without commenting on specific plans. A spokesperson for Nexperia Chinese parent, Wingtech, declined to comment. So that is currently where we're at in the ballad of Nexperia. Auto manufacturers are literally buying their own wafers to take them to China. And that's where we're at. This is one of the reasons why I get so frustrated, right, with the Dutch minister. The Dutch minister, now as part of this whole process to seize Nexperia, and that worthless fucking son of a bitch, right? That worthless piece of crap literally came out and said, I do it all the same all over again. If I knew then what I know today, I would do it all over again. Right? Which only shows you how fucking clueless their government is. To think this is a good way for things to be going at this point in time. And as I said, with the ballad of Nexperia, look, I think we're only halfway through season 2. Like when I talk about the end of this, I don't think we're in season 5 yet. right? We don't get to be depressed about how this story ends for another couple of years. We've still got another season and a half to see how this all fleshes out, because I think it's going to get more and more stupid as it goes, just because these policies that the Western countries are pushing through are not well thought. They're just fundamentally not well thought out. They are not looking at the overall ramifications of what their actions are. And then basically when the ramifications hit, right, for their incredibly bad policies, they simply just stand their ground, right? They cannot possibly admit that they were overexcited, or that they were overly optimistic, or that they fucking missed something when they were coming up with their grand diktats. No, they stand their ground to say, no, what we did was right. And the issue that we get into with this is, like, we're looking at Nexperia. And so Nexperia is Nexperia, right? You're like, Eli, you're sitting there, you got a Chihuahua on your lap, you got a Rottweiler on your lap, you got a cup of coffee in the morning, you're out on your back porch looking at the sun come up, and you're watching my video, and you're like, sucks to be Nexperia. Glad I'm not an auto manufacturer. Well, I've got work to do now. Right, as I talk about with Bear Stearns. When Bear Stearns fell, I remember when Bear Stearns fell, and I remember not giving two shits when Bear Stearns fell. Sucks to be them. Yeah, about 10, 11 months later, sucked to be me, right? Dominoes falling. The important thing to understand with this idiocy is you now look at what the auto manufacturers have to go through. And again, not just the government issues, but when the government step in, right? The Netherlands government seized the headquarters. That then caused the Chinese government to restrict exports, right? So that's the governmental controls. But what a lot gets missed is, as soon as the government step in, there starts to be ramifications from the business sides. Again, with how do contracts work internally, right? If you had a company, if you had a company that used to be a whole, right, they probably didn't worry a lot about contracts and things internally, right? You create wafers, send them to China, they package it, ship it off, everybody gets paid, right? You don't need a lot of fucking legalese for that. Well, all of a sudden, right, when this becomes European and this becomes Chinese, and you're kind of sort of not the same company anymore, all of a sudden, right, contract negotiations and legalese, and when do things get paid for, right? Terms for internal payment is probably not something that a lot of people were thinking about before. And now all of that, right, gets entirely fucked up, right? There are ramifications. So now the auto manufacturers, they have to go and get the wafers, and they have to go do this whole thing. And the important thing to understand, right, with this Dutch minister that fucking licks walls, right, is if he literally says he would do it the same again, you have to take him at his word. If they say it, expect that that's what they are going to do again. So it was Nexperia last month. What is the next company that they're going to go after? I just did a video talking about Germany. Germany is literally stating they don't trust any Chinese telecom equipment. They're not obfuscating, right? They're not like, well, it's Huawei or ZTE. They're just saying anything from China they no longer trust. So if we look at this, and we look at the crap show going in the auto industry, the thing that I want you to be thinking about with the dominoes of this idiocy is in 11 months, what are you going to have to be doing? Right? If you're an American in 11 months, are you going to end up having to rent a fucking U-Haul, drive that to somewhere the fuck in Mexico, so that you can buy the server cases that you need in order to have something to put your motherboards and things into when you're building out a data center? Right? You sit here and you laugh at the auto manufacturers. What happens when Sam Altman basically has to spin up his own version of fucking UPS just so he can get parts from point A to point B? That's going to put a little bit of a dent into the stupid AI bubble and the rest of it. So anyways, there we go. So what do you think about this? Oh, what do you think about this timeline? What do you think about, now this is 2025, this is 2025. You know 2026 is going to be worse. You know it's only gonna get. That was the thing with COVID. We were naive enough to believe that once COVID was over, it would get better. We are no longer those sweet innocent summer children anymore. How badly do you think it's gonna go in 2026? Put your thoughts down below. If you like these videos, give us a thumbs up. If you hate these videos, give us a thumbs down. Call me amazing, call me a dumbass, just be a real lutnick and put a strong American comment down there. If you're European, you can put a wall-licking comment down there. But just remember, we'll laugh at you for it. Anyways, do remember what I actually care about is Silicon Dojo, silicondojo.com. Free to end user hands-on technology education that empowers you to do whatever the hell it is you want to do in Durham, North Carolina. We have a class coming up on AI and web scraping next week, completely full. Don't sign up. We have a class coming up on extending AI capabilities with REST APIs in a couple of weeks. We are going to keep having classes coming up every couple of weeks going forward. If you're interested, take a look at silicondojo.com to see what our schedule is. Do remember, free to end user is not free. That's why I shake my brain nips every day. If you want to throw some money into the donor box link down below, that would be ever so lovely. And with that, see y'all later.